You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show podcast on KPEL965.com.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL, Breaux Bridge, Lafayette.
Former President Trump back in court in New York. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, and he's not happy about it.
It's a very, very sad day in America, I can tell you that.
Speaking out before going in for the start of his first criminal trial, he again called a witch hunt.
This is done for purposes of hurting the opponent of the worst president in the history of our country.
Opening statements will start soon. The first witness, reportedly David Pecker, the former CEO of the company that owns the National Enquirer.
Expected to outline the so-called catch and kill scheme that prosecutors say was cooked up with Trump, running for president at the time, and his longtime lawyer Michael Cohen. The tabloid's owner, AMI, has admitted it did try to influence the 2016 presidential election by paying former playmate Karen McDougal.
Fox's Eric Shawn outside the court. The former president not charged in payments to McDougal. He is charged with falsifying records and payments in 2016 to keep another alleged affair quiet with Stormy Daniels. There's another big anti-Israel protest this morning on another college campus, Yale University.
Free, free, free Palestine!
Hundreds of students demonstrating in New Haven, Connecticut, and police have reportedly made arrests. Meanwhile, in New York City...
At Columbia, the protests have become so bad, though, that a rabbi here has said that Jewish students are not safe, sending a text message to hundreds of Jewish students telling them to go home and leave campus. The president of this university calling for a reset here. President Manoush Shafiq shifting to virtual classes to, quote, de-escalate what's going on campus.
Fox's Alexis McAdams. There are also protests this morning outside the Supreme Court for housing dignity for the homeless. As justices this hour hear arguments
in a case that could determine if it's unconstitutional for governments to enforce a public camping ban when there's nowhere else for unhoused folks to sleep. The case involves laws that officials in Grants Pass, Oregon enacted, allowing them to punish homeless people for sleeping in public places.
That's Fox's Kristen Goodwin. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back. But what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 989898. That's PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch.
It's time to win cash. Get your KPEL News apps ready because here's your chance to win up to $30,000. Just enter the following code into your KPEL News app where it says win cash and make sure you listen for more codes throughout the day because the more codes you enter, the better your chances. Here is your next code.
And here's your 9 a.m. code. It is 603. Your 9 a.m. code is 603.
Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. You can always find people who are helping. Thank you to all the first responders who put their lives in danger to help us when my brothers and sisters and mom and dad and grandpa and grandma need them.
Thank you, first responders.
This is what I signed up for as a first responder. I am constantly worried about being exposed to this virus and potentially bringing it back to my home and my family. I'm going to continue going to work day in and day out and providing help to those that need it.
We look out for the helpers because they look out for us.
Thank you, first responders! Thank you, first responders!
Thank you, first responders! Love you. Mwah.
Be safe, look after yourself, and look after one another. Thanks.
Let's show up for first responders and their families. Go to firstrcf.org to find out how you can help today.
Since 1971, Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities has reached out to scholars, institutions, and local communities to enrich our shared culture. Want to know more about LEH and the rich culture of Louisiana? Visit leh.org for more information or to donate.
Bikers Against Child Abuse empowers children to not feel afraid of the world in which they live. For more information, visit bacaworld.org. Our helpline is 866-885-9474. BACA, breaking the chains of abuse.
This hour of the Moon Griffon Show is brought to you by 1% Lists Acadiana. Call Shannon LeBlanc today at 337-522-0682. Save on fees, not on service.
The views expressed in the following show are those of the hosts or hosts only. They do not represent News Talk 96.5 KPEL or Town Square Media.
Hello, welcome, Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us today on a beautiful Monday, best day of the work week. Got the whole week to get it right. 844-766-6607 is the number. It's a Matthew James Tax Wealth Management Hotline. We're going to jump right in it. Honored to have in-house, in the studio, and guests for the fifth time. I'm counting now. Governor Jeff Landry has joined us. And of course, on the line, go ahead and put on that walk. We've got Senator Heather Cloud with us as well. Senator Cloud, how you doing?
Good morning, Moon and Governor. Nice to be with you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, guys, I'm going to jump right into it so we got enough time over a couple of segments to get this in, because there's been a lot of talk about transparency with the media. Y'all have a bill. I'm saying y'all, Jeff, I'm including you in the legislature, but y'all have a bill that Heather had. And she talked to me the other day on 482. And if you read the headlines, I even brought one of the headlines. Bill advances to exempt most Louisiana government records from public disclosure. If you read the Devil's Advocate, by the way, they don't like you.
You think?
They like you much as they like me. They
don't you worry, man. As long as I'm around, I will be the most criticized person in the state. So
no doubt about it. If you were Bell, you wouldn't even be criticized at all. But that's beside the point. But everything they're doing is letting people know, and they're interviewing Parr and these people. And I've had people and conservatives go, what are they doing? Why do they want public records? I don't want people to get public records. Now, I had Heather on to explain the bill the other day, so you guys are going to have to stop, re-explain the bill, and tell people what's right about this, because this is what I'm getting from other people, and I'm looking in the media. I want y'all to explain it. So you want Heather to explain the bill first, or you want to jump in?
Listen, I don't mind. Look, here's what over the last 8 years I have seen. As the attorney, when I became the attorney general, I mean literally within the first 3 weeks, we started getting inundated with public records requests. It continued, and we started looking back and seeing, okay, well, how many public records requests were actually made to Buddy Caldwell, because that's who
Attorney General that you beat.
That's right, and we started seeing that literally within 1 year or 2 or 3 years, we started getting double, then triple, then 4 times the amount of public records requests that he got. But let's take this back. Let's think about how this all started. First and foremost, the deliberative process, which means the ability of elected officials to deliberate and talk about the public policies as they set them forth, and then to discuss those issues with their constituents. That's something that's rooted in the U.S. Constitution way back when, the deliberative process. The public records doctrine was set up in order to ensure that the public had some transparency in the way that they spent their money. Because what happens is you say a parish council, the legislature goes and appropriates money, and you see it in this big bill. But then you want to know exactly how did they spend it, who got the money, right? So we can make sure that the money was spent appropriately. And you want to be able to make sure that the legislature said, well, we got a contract, we're spending $10 million on roads. Where is that $10 million going? Who was awarded those contracts? How was that money spent? That was the initial reason for the public records doctrine. I fully support that. In fact, one of the things that the state did was they set up LA Wallet, which was to further enhance transparency on the way that the state spent its money. Guess who was the first department to get on LA Wallet? Even before the Division of Administration, when then was Jay Darden, the Department of Justice, when I was the Attorney General, we were the first department to go live with LA Wallet. Why? Because I have no problem being fully transparent in the way that we spend the taxpayers' money. That's always been something that was important to me. We ended up, after 8 years, by the time I finished as the AG, I had two lawyers, full-time, answering public records doctrine requests, okay? That doesn't do us any good. Moon, they want to know. They want any and all correspondence that we had with Moon Griffon, any and all correspondence that we had with the Oil and Gas Association, any and all, like everything.
Was a phone call?
Yeah, anything. We had to go through, and of course, as the AG, it was even more problematic because we had to go through and determine what was privileged, what was not. Because remember, we run in a lawyer's office. I got calls from sheriffs. In fact, we had to have a lawyer work with sheriffs and clerks during that whole woke law enforcement movement by the left because they were inundating the sheriffs with this. And so the point of the matter is that what has happened is the left has weaponized this, and they realize if they can inundate those conservatives with the amounts with just inundating them with requests, then guess what? That chills our ability. Number one, that frustrates our ability to go get problem solved because we got to work through and go through emails and sort through all those kind of things. And then it also chills the discussions between our constituents and other organizations to be able to discuss those issues privately. Now, look, the policy making is always public. It's always transparent.
The money's always transparent.
And the money is always transparent. Now, look, Heather's bill is extremely broad, and it covers all public officials. But if those parishes, if those municipalities, if those public officials don't have the transparency that the state has on the financial side, then we can discuss that. The bill can further be narrowed. But I'm going to tell you this. Why this is necessary in looking at this is because they have weaponized the public records doctrine against conservatives. Go look at the number of public records that John Bell Edwards got versus what we got. I know that they just ignored it. Then somebody will say, why you didn't sue him? Well, why? Think about where I'd have to litigate that at, right? I remember there was a New York Times reporter who attempted to get information from the governor's office through the public records doctrine and was frustrated even then. But it's okay when the Democrats ignore the law, but certainly not when Republicans do. And I don't want to ignore the law. I want to make sure that the law is fair.
Okay, can I ask this?
Sure.
Governor Jeff Landry sent it to Heather Clown. Heather, you join whenever you want to. But what kind of things? And I'm gonna let you be a little bit more specific. I get what you're saying, but what kind of specifics are you talking about? They're asking for that don't even make no sense. Did you talk to Moon Griffon last night? We were every message to Moon Griffon. Y'all gonna eat it shucks? I'm asking the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything. It is so broad. Any and all emails.
Well, let me give. If I could interject for just a second, let me give a real example that the Attorney General, one of her lead attorneys, testified to in committee. Mr. Tom Jones said that advisory opinions, which is what the Attorney General's office is tasked with, when they have a lower level attorney that's drafting an advisory opinion and sending it up the chain to their superior for consideration, they often test that lower level attorney's opinion, and they'll play devil's advocate, and they'll send a memo back down and say, well, what about this, or what about that, or maybe your conclusion is wrong because of this. And so in testing and sending that memo, the attorney, Tom Jones, has said, if this is the case, I'm afraid to even test another attorney's opinion in writing because it could be subject to a public record when it is not a reflection of the final product. And we see that so often in jurisprudence. The big case that we're basing this off of in the United States Supreme Court, it was based off of a draft that was written from a lower level person within the wildlife and fisheries back in 2013, dealing with an activist group that was suing over a water cooling plant. They were worried that some endangered species of fish were going to die because of the water cooling plant, so they sent the draft up. And the Sierra Club wanted that draft released. Well, in that time, the Wildlife and Fisheries said, wait, we need to stop and do a study and see if this is actually the case. Like, are there actually endangered species of fish there? Are they actually dying before we shut down the water plant or disseminate the wrong information in the form of this draft? So they stopped, did a study, and at the end of the year, a year later, they looked back and they said it was not a problem. They didn't need to shut down the plant, and that draft was null and void. They didn't need to issue the preliminary draft. They issued a final draft saying that there is no problem there and they're not shutting down the plant. And so they issued the final draft. Well, Sierra Club said that's not good enough. We want the preliminary draft too. And the United States Supreme Court said, no, that preliminary draft was pre-decisional. It was before a study was done. It was before the conclusions were made. Why do you need that? If you put that, Justice Amy Coney Barrett basically said, if you put that pre-decisional draft out, you're going to mislead the public because it doesn't constitute the effects of the study and the final decision. That's what we're talking about right here, is when governments are trying to figure things out, their memos, their drafts, their opinions, forcing them to put it out prematurely is going to mislead the public.
And what has happened is, and really for constituents out there, I want constituents to be able to converse with the governor's office. As the attorney general, I wanted them, regardless of what their idea was. Sometimes people send ideas that are absolutely outlandish. However, there may be a nugget in there that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. But guess what happens when you then start sending it into the bureaucracy? And it gets even worse when you're the governor, because think about all of the departments. It allows those inside the bureaucracy that want to curtail good policy. How? They call their friend over in, like in the Sierra Club or in one of the left-wing organizations, and then they say, well, listen, you should ask for this and you should ask for that. And then all of a sudden, it's on the front page of the paper, and then that constituent, that citizen in Louisiana says, man, I don't want to get involved in my government if I can't even talk to someone, if I can't send an email knowing that my ideas and the conversations that I have with that official has some degree of confidence, because it's not the final product. And that's what we're talking about.
I'm going to take a quick break. I'll come back because I want you to answer this question. What do you think should be allowed? What shouldn't be allowed? Now, basically, you've been telling us this. I'm going to just get a little closer so people listening to go, I'm trying to understand what's allowed and what's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you guys can answer this. Let me take a break. Senator Heather Cloud join us by phone. And, of course, Governor Jeff Landry sitting in the House. We appreciate the governor and Senator Cloud coming on. Let's take a break. We'll come back and try to put together a little bit more of what's really going on. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show. When you think about how you'll spend your money in retirement, what comes to mind? Probably travel, sunny beaches, and spoiling your grandchildren. But a recent survey found that over 30% of every dollar a retiree spends goes to taxes. Baby boomers were told for years to save money in their IRAs and 401ks and pay taxes later. Well, now that day has arrived, and boomers are shocked to see a third of their money going back to Uncle Sam. John Blanchard and the Matthew James Financial Group can help. What if you could protect all or most of your retirement wealth from future tax rate increases? Achieve a zero or near zero effective tax rate for most of your retirement years. Find out more. 337-366-8366. Isn't it time you got a second opinion on your wealth and retirement outlook? Learn how you could potentially kick the IRS out of your IRA. 337-366-8366 and online at MatthewJames.com.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. It's termite season. Did you know termites are responsible for over $1 billion worth of damage in Louisiana alone? For over 60 years, J&J Exterminating has been shielding homes and businesses. 100% guaranteed against termites, pests, and mosquitoes. Louisiana-owned, customer-focused. J&J Exterminating.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J
Terminating.
Get the Shield.
Yeah. Line One is a business telecom provider. Line One specializes in cloud-based communication with superior customer service. If you're frustrated with phone bills you can't understand, endless hold time to customer support, and phone system that is not meeting your needs, then you need to go to Line.one and schedule a free consultation to advance your business phone system. Line One, technology with a human touch. Go to Line.one and tell them Moon sent you. Again, that is Line.one.
Each month, one.
Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Matthew James Hotline. All right. Heather Cloud, Senator Cloud, Governor Jeff Landry, just a few minutes left. Heather, you wanted to say something about the Constitution real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say a couple things about what's allowed right now in the bill, and that we're working on that language. But first of all, I want to say what we're debating right now is a benefit that the legislature, myself, Heather Cloud, already has. Within the state legislature, we have deliberative process privilege that protects our speech. That is rooted in the Constitution. And you've seen a lot of these public record requests they're not saying we're denying it because of deliberative process privilege. Instead, they're sending that record is unresponsive. That means that they don't have to, that agency or the attorney for the legislature says we don't have to respond to it because we're not required to. So what we're debating right now is whether or not we should give the same privilege that the legislature is afforded to the executive, like the governor. He does have some sort of deliberative process privilege, but it is very narrow. He can only talk to 4 people within his entire staff that would be covered by deliberative process privilege. And then the other thing, look, what we do a lot, then Attorney General Jeff Landry told me when I was first elected, he said, making a good piece of legislation is making sausage. Because I would want everything perfect on the front side when I just started in the legislature. And he said it doesn't work like that. Language has to be perfected. You have to hear all sides of the issue, and then you usually come out with a good piece. We're only in the first stage right now. And what we're debating, everybody pretty much that came to the table said we need to define deliberative process privilege in statute. Like the opponents of the bill said that in committee. It's on record. That's what we're trying to do. What is the right definition right now? We felt like our definition was pretty good in my bill, but there's some concern that it could be any record and it could be protected forever. Well, that is not our intention.
What I want to tell him, I'll throw back to Jeff. Jeff, and here's a perfect example. Guy always worried about government spending.
Yes.
It's always about the money.
Yes.
You're telling me
there's not
what is allowed.
Right.
What's going to be allowed from
there is nothing inside, as I appreciate Heather's bill. And again, if we find that there is, this is a process, which is great. And guess what? The legislative process is transparent as well. She had a committee hearing, allowed people to come and visit and testify and comment. And then people voted. That's all right in the open public. But as I appreciate it, any of the financial transactions are not in any way covered in Heather's bill. In other words, they are already open.
Spending and money
Anything to do with
spending,
record. That's correct. Contracts, the way you spend it, it's simply about you and I, or Heather and I, or me and my secretary at the Department of Economic Development, having discussions about particular policies, projects, issues that are affecting the state. Because what the left wants to do is they want to see and they want to pick apart little words between the emails, or the Sierra Club wants to say, well, the Attorney General, the governor's been talking to, Exxon or Chevron, and then they want to paint them as big. And then we spend ungodly amounts of tax dollars having to search through those particular records and emails and all the rest to determine whether or not it's privileged, whether it should go or not. Those are conversations that we have as we try to solve the problems of the state. And that's what we're trying.
But Jeff, what I'm getting mostly, we're talking about contracts, money. And that none of that can be hidden from the public.
No,
that's what I want to know.
No, absolutely not. No, right.
Follow the money.
That's
we can
correct.
still follow the money.
I'm with you, Moon. I believe you me. That's why. Look, if I'm not mistaken, and we should, and I don't know how many departments on LA Wallet, but I can guarantee you the 4th floor and the DOA are now on LA Wallet. I fully support it. I have no problems with it. The minute we spend money right now in state government, if you're an LA wallet, the public has the ability to see it. And I completely support that.
Okay, because I think we're getting crossed over here. The media's talking about all they want to do, but they want the ins and outs and the hot stuff, but they only want the hot stuff on the conservatives. Bell Edwards they didn't want to talk about Johnny Anderson. They didn't want to talk about anything.
Right. When the other thing too is that look, right now I'm at a disadvantage because I don't have the privileges that every other governor before me has had. And then of course, when the previous governor got in, he went around and utilized the law and then moved staff around, changed titles simply because he was trying to circumvent the law. Right? Because he understood what I understood is that the ability not to have that privilege like the legislature does, and that's important. We're not asking for anything different than what the legislature has. And that's what Heather's bill does.
I just want to make sure. Go ahead, Heather.
These documents are pre-decisional. These would be documents or memos or emails or text messages where people like staff is just giving their opinion to someone like the governor, or maybe just proposing a draft to him. And if those would become public record, it could be misleading and confusing to the public. I mean, at some point, we have to acknowledge that putting out premature drafts that don't constitute the end product, if we put that out, it could confuse the public. That's not fair to them.
Tell you what you
either.
do. Hold on, Heather. If you got time, Governor can stay a few more minutes, go through this break, and come back, and I'll get y'all out of here because, once again, I wanted to make sure. All right, we'll be right back. When you think about how you'll spend your money in retirement, what comes to mind? Probably travel, sunny beaches, and spoiling your grandchildren. But a recent survey found that over 30% of every dollar a retiree spends goes to taxes. Baby boomers were told for years to save money in their IRAs and 401ks and pay taxes later. Well, now that day has arrived, and boomers are shocked to see a third of their money going back to Uncle Sam. John Blanchard and the Matthew James Financial Group can help. What if you could? Protect all or most of your retirement wealth from future tax rate increases. Achieve a zero or near zero effective tax rate for most of your retirement years. Find out more. 337-366-8366. Isn't it time you got a second opinion on your wealth and retirement outlook? Learn how you could potentially kick the IRS out of your IRA. 337-366-8366 and online at MatthewJames.com. Folks, remember the name Allfield Equipment, allfieldequipment.com. When I say Allfield, that's ALL Field.com. Allfield Equipment, founded in 2016 by my good friend, Mr. Bill Allen, with over 50 years' experience in the oil and gas industry. Hey, this is a great company to do business with. Whether it's production equipment, control valves, controller, glyco pumps, chemical pumps, chokes, Wilden pumps, Barton recorders, Allfield has new rebuilt and parts. Allfield handles some of the industry's top brands such as Norseal, Fisher, and Kimray. On the supply side, Allfield has anything from Q-tips to appliances to general Allfield supplies. Allfield is one of the largest suppliers of bottled water in the Gulf. And remember, Allfield never changes transportation. Like the name says, Allfield has it all, covering the Architects area and the Gulf of Mexico. Allfield Equipment, 337-837-1003, 337-837-1003. It's Moon Griffon.
This hour of the Moon Griffon Show is brought to you by 1% List Acadiana. Call Shannon LeBlanc today at 337-522-0682. Save on fees, not on service.
Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you back with us. It's the Matthew James Tax Wealth Management Hotline. Proud to have Senator Heather Cloud and Governor Jeff Landry. His fifth time already, so that's beat all of them combined lately. But no, I want you to come. It's like I told Jeff, now come when we fighting, too.
Absolutely. Well, that's when it'd be more.
Everybody's waiting for me to fight you. And this bill right here.
We have had some very spirited debates in the past.
But this fight here, I'm trying to grip and I understand what y'all talking about, okay? But it's easy in the perception. You in the political game, Heather is too. perception becomes reality really quick, and that's all people believe. Yeah. And that's where I brought y'all on, because I wanted to know the reality of it. And the reality of it, I asked you what's allowed, what's not allowed. Those are the things that I think people can relate to. And you tell me, let me get back. You telling me that every penny spent, state government, your office, with the state senate, they can follow.
Absolutely.
Every dime for every lawmaker can be followed. You can follow every contract. So we can follow our dollars and money, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. The other thing we're talking about is if you're having a conversation with Exxon or the Sierra Club, the media doesn't need to know what you freaking talked about.
Right.
Am I right by that?
Yeah, because what happens is that's why the country's so divisive. Okay, like we don't have an opportunity because if one person says, "Oh, well, you're talking to the governor's talking to the Sierra Club," and of course, if you just say it like that, Moon, you could be like, "Oh my God, Jeff Landry's been sent off to the left." But I want to talk to them. I want to hear what they have to say. They can send me a document. That document may have some information in it that might say, "Well, they got a great point right here." Then you go to the other side. I mean, that's the way that you solve the problem. But
so what does the media want? They want the document.
They want the documents before you even get to solve the problem. Why? So that, and it's not just the media. There's a bunch of organizations out there that then feed it to different media outlets, okay, or put it out on the internet. What they want to do is they want to frustrate the problem-solving method, right? That's what they want. They do not want, because some don't want the problem solved. And so their ability to frustrate that problem or that problem-solving method means that the problem doesn't get solved because they don't want to solve it. And so, again, this is the ability of elected officials. Just the legislature has this. I want to make sure you understand this. We're not asking for anything more than what legislators already enjoy.
Heather, I'm going to bring you back in real quick because I know the governor's got to go too. But let me just bring this up. You remember when the argument came up, education savings account? And
yes.
And a guy from Paul, Steve Paricchio, whatever his name is, and a real nice guy, I'm sure he's smart, comes out and says, it's going to cost the state $520 million. Follow me. I want to see if this is what y'all talking about. And I went nuts on it. I said, where'd you get that from? We heard Arizona was going to cost them that. And by the way, when they put a number on the bill, it wasn't going to cost us but $250 million 3 years up the road. Paricchio's up to 520. So the media, the devil's advocate, they ran with that number. They just ran with that number, kept putting it out there, and people are going, oh, my God, and the municipality. Is that what we're talking about here, Heather? Am I even close by saying that?
I think you're spot on with what you're saying. Two things. Moon, do you like Kristi Noem?
Yep. Sure
do you like Governor Kristi Noem?
Yep.
Do you think your listeners like Governor Kristi Noem?
Probably. I would say yes.
I bet you they do. Guess what South Dakota has? Verbatim, that in their statute, drafts, notes, recommendation, and memoranda in which opinions are expressed or policies are formulated or recommended are exempt from disclosure. 30 states have this in some way, shape, or form. We're not doing something completely remote. And to the governor's point, if he's talking with Exxon and they're having conversations about opportunities for Louisiana, if that gets prematurely published, guess what Texas is going to see? Louisiana has an opportunity. Let's offer them the better deal. We read about their deal in the paper. Let's offer them a better deal in Texas.
Heather, that's why I brought up Steve Paricchio. Yeah. I even say his name. He brought this up through the number out there, and the media said, we got a source. Let's go run a story. So they ran a story, got all the municipalities pumped up on really a made-up story between his ears. It's not if you like him or not, if you think he's credible. I'm not talking about that. He made up a story. He made up a number. Every media, the Gannett, the Devil's Advocate, Illumina, they all ran with the $520 million. When the bill came through, it don't get to $250 to the third year. So you see, they took a number, they made a story. I think that's what you guys are talking about.
Absolutely. I mean, look, that we should have the opportunity to be able to deliberate, to debate, to get information. And the problem is that they've weaponized it so that they tell half of the story. You understand? Even before you get to the solution.
You'll love this, my buddy writes. The problem is conservatives is not a problem to the left. When you solve the problem, the left never gets beat up. The left never gets challenges by the same people that challenge y'all. That's a fact. Yeah. But I'll say it again. If you guys are saying that people can get public records on the money, on the contracts, where the monies go. That's every email I've got. So when I'm trying to hide the money. No, right, Jeff? Now, tell me this again, Governor. No.
You go look and see what was the first department to get on LA Wallet, which is probably the most transparent application for tracking taxpayer money, and see who led on that. And you see, it was me. So why would I want to hide it? I opened it up when I was Attorney General. We got to do it as a governor. I want the public to see how their money's spent.
I don't want people coming to me and say, what are they hiding? If you say all the money's there, go see where the contracts go. We can find out everything. If you mean the conversations that they're having with somebody while they negotiate or work on something, that's a whole different ballgame. Heather, I've talked to you privately. Governor, I've talked to you privately. Walker, I've talked to you. Boy, they better never know our conversations. You notice he's laughing.
Well, I mean, think about the media. Let's just talk about the media and reporters. I mean, how many times do they go and they give you you give them a big old interview and they just take a section of it? Aggravates us. All the time. They did it to me the other day. I put it on Facebook when they do it. I mean, like, they don't go and publish the entire notes, the ways they got to the particular story. In fact, I remember having this discussion when we were in the transition. They wanted to know if we were going to open up the transitional committees to the press. I said, no, but we're going to issue a report when it's after, which we did. Why? Because they wanted to be in there where they discuss inflammatory. If there would be something that they viewed as inflammatory, and they go out there and write a story.
I got one for both of y'all that nobody ever ran on it, and they're wrong. The former governor, said we had a $2 billion budget. He just came out and said it, him and Jay Darden. Never been proved. It can't be proved. Yet the media ran with that number because they put it out. And the point I'm making is the point you're making. They just took a number and beat us up to get taxes passed. There was never $2 billion. It was made up. You know what they took? They took the deficit we had, figured out what they wanted to spend, added that to the deficit, $2 billion. That's illegal. That's not even right to do. You see what I'm saying? So the media never, ever question them. But boy,
it's a two-tiered system.
You spilled a Diet Coke, Jeff. Yeah. They want to know why you spilled the Diet Coke.
Especially, they want to know who paid for it.
Yeah, who paid for the Diet Coke? Heather, how about that? Gee, how do you think about that? Who paid for it? Well, look, I understand, but I'm going to let y'all close with this. There's a perception problem with this.
No, absolutely.
Okay? Because they ran out there with how bad it is, and you guys want to hold back on the money. And I ask you to your face, I'd hold you responsible. If y'all holding back on the money stuff, that's a whole different ballgame.
And then look, here's what's important too: all of those notes, all of those emails, all of those things that they want today is still archived. And when I'm going to leave at a particular point, now we send it to the Louisiana archives, like the presidential race. At some particular point, they open them up, and people can go back and say, "Well, this is how he came to this conclusion, or this is how they did this." Why? Because trying to frustrate the process as you try to solve the problem, there's only one result that happens. You never get to solve the problem, and you wonder why we last move.
Yeah. All righty, listen, I'm going to let y'all go. Y'all got to go. Hey, Heather, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Senator Heather Cloud, Governor Jeff Landry, and hey, God bless. I get it, and maybe I don't know if it's amended or whatever, but I get what y'all at least trying to do now without reading the newspaper. Thank y'all both.
Thank you.
All right.
It's springtime, and that means garden time here in Louisiana. And Louisiana-owned and operated Stein is where you need to go to get all the great deals on plants and everything else you need for that brand new flower bed you've been wanting to make. Stein has great deals on garden soil, mulch, weed, and ant killer, everything you need to lay the groundwork for that brand new flower bed, plus assorted flowers and vegetables in jumbo 6-packs starting at just $2.79. The weather is perfect, and that means you have the opportunity to start bringing those great blossoms into your yard today. Plus, springtime means outdoor cooking, grills, charcoal and propane burners. All of that you need you can find online at steinhome.com. Louisiana-owned and operated, Stein is your place for the gardening and outdoor grilling you need to take advantage of this spring. Check out everything they have to offer online at steinhome.com. That's steinhome.com. Check them out today.
From the humbling beginning, Dino Hardwoods is strived to provide superior service and quality products for their customers. Hey, I know Charles Altman. He does a great job. If you're looking for lumber, Dino Hardwood stocks a large selection of domestic and import hardwood lumber in Cyprus. You ought to see their stuff. Exotic lumber, they got that as well. Trust in Dino Hardwoods when it comes to your exotic lumber needs right now. Molding, plywood, paint, and L products, they are ready for you. They got 3 great locations. Their corporate office is right here in Broussard, Louisiana. There's an office in Shreveport on 2801 Valley View Drive and one in Tyler, Texas, 12492 Highway 155 North. Hey, if you're looking for something different and something new and somebody who will service you, it's Dino Hardwoods. I'm telling you, don't forget Dino Hardwoods. DinoHardwoods.com, DinoHardwoods.com. Great locations. They can service you. They can deliver. DinoHardwoods.com. Check out this great Louisiana company. Hey, hello, welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607 is the number. If you'd like to be part of the program, your opportunity to be a voice. They called and came on, and I understand. I understand the argument of, being transformative, translation, whatever you want to call a word, but it's just going to be interesting how all this breaks down because you got to get all this stuff passed. I mean, you still got to get it all passed. But I understand what they're saying. Some people will never understand. Some people get mad at me. You would. But I understand because you got people like the devil's advocate, and I brought up a great story. When did the devil's I want to go debate anybody in the advocate about the $2 billion deficit that Bel Edwards and Jay Darden claimed they had. Jay Darden's still saying that when they did the Hall of Shame, Jay Darden talked about the $2 billion budget deficit. And what they did was, it was real simple. They took, because they knew they were going to get some money, they took what they needed it, which may have been $1 billion, $1.2 billion, whatever it was, for a real budget deficit. Okay? And what they did was they added what they needed, what they wanted, not needed, wanted, and came up with $2 billion. Nobody but me, and I don't say that boastfully, I know you think I do, but I don't. Nobody but me figured it out and started talking about it day one. There was never a $2 billion budget deficit. And the media, the devil's advocate, okay, they never touched it. They didn't care. It was Bel Edwards. It was their guy. It was the one John George wanted to win. That's a great example of the media never doing their job, but doing their job against the ones they don't like. Now, here's the thing, and I told the governor, we sat right by each other. If y'all talking about holding contracts and money you're spending, hiding stuff like that, I'm not with you. But you're talking about holding back a conversation you had with anybody, I'm not worried about that. I want to know what was voted on. What's the vote? Where they spending money? What's the bill say? That's really probably what the media ought to be focusing on. Now, most of the time, the media, okay, they focus on what they want to focus on. Especially the leftists, like the devil's advocate, illuminating this stupid Gannett paper. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about the truth. When it comes to the money, that's your money and my money. Okay, that's your money and my money. We deserve everything about that. So I get it. I get what they tried to do. But I got it when Heather came on. The governor just reiterated what I thought. I didn't know what he was going to say. So that money, that's ours. That's how it operates. So, get mad. I mean, when the devil's advocate can show me where we had literally a $2 billion budget deficit. Send Bell. Send Jay and Bell. I'll take them on. Show me a $2 billion budget deficit. Nobody's ever talked about it but me. Why? Why am I the only one ever talked about it? It's not because I'm smart. It's not because I knew something they didn't, but I know the political game they play. And they know they can fool some people all the time. And that's exactly what they did with the $2 billion budget. And even when they got sworn into the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Shame, Jay Darden, the best governor ever, he took $2 billion. That was a lie. That's still a lie, and none of them can prove it. And the media don't want to prove it because it's with Bell. It's old Bell. Let Bell get away with everything. Bell got away. I proved that using some of the Homeland Security people, I proved that they were lying about the number of people that were getting COVID. And the people were telling me that had numbers that they were getting. We had sheriffs. We had Homeland Security people from 20 different parishes, 22 parishes. Call me and say, man, it doesn't add up. They tell them we got 332 cases of COVID, but I only have 142 names. Because it was double and triple and quadruple count. And when I came up with this and made a big deal about it, the media ran away from it. And then they ran away from it totally. And then all of a sudden, there was a new rule put in place by Bell Edwards that you wouldn't get the numbers if you were giving them to somebody. I wonder why. Media never picked it up. The devil's advocate. Some of you going, I didn't remember that. You don't have to remember it. My audience did. I hammered it for a long time. I had the guests on. I had sheriffs on. People going, man, I don't understand. Today I got 213 cases of COVID, but I only have 100 names. And then we found out, well, if you got COVID and you did a test and was doing positive, and 3 days later, 4 days later, you tested positive again, it counted as a case. Same person. If you got tested 3 more times and got COVID, it counted as new cases. And nobody cared about it enough to know. I know what I got credibility on and what I don't. But when it comes to the devil's advocate, illuminated Gannett papers and people like that, what a joke. What a joke. All right, let's go to phone lines. Miss Jane Smith joins us. Jane, how you doing?
Doing great, Moon. Good to talk to you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll be quick. Just wanted to let your listening audience know you have a huge listening audience in the Bossier Shreveport area, and Liz Murrow, our new Attorney General, is going to be our speaker tomorrow night, and she's on your program quite a bit. You know how much credibility she has, and I just want to remind everybody, tomorrow night, meet and greet, 5:30 to 6, and then the program starts at 6, and we end at 7. Smokehouse, Silver Star. Hope to see y'all there. Thank you so much for letting me just make this announcement.
Yeah, y'all always have a great group. I know we've come. It's always been fun. Great group.
We love having you. We ask you to come when we do our membership drive because that's when we have our huge crowd.
Yeah, that's always a fun crowd, fun group, a lot of good questions, a lot of great people to talk to. Love coming to it. So, y'all show up for Liz. Liz is a great speaker, too, so she does a real good job.
She is. She can update us on everything she's been involved in, and that's quite a bit. And by the way, I'm thrilled that you're having the governor on to talk about the Constitutional Convention. I think it's a wonderful way to get the word out about what's going on.
Well, I think he's going to join me Thursday. I'm supposed to broadcast and with Guarantee Broadcasting at their place on Thursday, and the governor's going to come back. He wants to come back and talk about the Constitutional Convention. I think Bernie Pincinat is going to come on as well during the course of the program. I got to get my times lined out, but we'll be at the Capitol
that'd be great.
On Thursday. All right, Liz. All right, Jane, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Take care, Moon.
Yes, ma'am. So, anyway, we will, I'll be there on Thursday, just letting you know. Just to be a good time. All right, let me do this real quick. We're always doing double duty over here. All right. So we got that coming up, and I read these bills to advance the exempt most Louisiana government records from disclosure. The media, once again, is running this. But, folks, let me ask y'all a question. Besides the money, follow the money, okay? I'm not saying there's something else they can't get, but besides the money, what else is there? If you follow the money, you can follow the contracts, you can follow who got the money, you can follow what deals will cut. You're going to know about the money. You're going to know about the money. That's all. You're going to know by the money. That's what's important. Very important. And if there's something else, you can request, but, they should have to hire lawyers to go take care of all this. Everybody talking about saving money with the state and all that stuff. This media is so bad here now. It's just horrible. They don't really care about the truth. Who was I watching? Today is Earth Day. What started out as an innocent day is now Earth Day and the worst consequences. By the way, when we get back, I got a national guest to talk about this Title IX, and what Joe Biden and them has done. Scott McKay is going to join us at 10:30. A lot of stuff dealing with the state of Louisiana. So we got a really great lineup. Don't go nowhere. News Talk, 96.5, KPEL, Brobridge, Lafayette, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the Matthew James Financial Studio.
Prosecutors are making their case at the first Trump criminal trial. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Opening statements now underway in New York after the former president spoke out again before going into the courtroom this morning.
This is done as election interference. Everybody knows it. I'm here instead of being able to be in Pennsylvania and Georgia and lots of other places campaigning.
He's charged with falsifying records in 2016 payments to keep an alleged affair quiet. Before the opening statements, the judge ruled if the former president testifies at this trial, prosecutors can ask about other Trump cases in New York, from the civil fraud judgment to the 2 defamation lawsuits he lost to author E. Jean Carroll, who alleges the former president sexually assaulted her decades ago. More pro-Palestinian protests on another college campus.
In New Haven, Connecticut, hundreds of protesters being removed from a makeshift encampment on Yale's University campus. They blocked streets while calling for a free Palestine, with dozens of protesters, some students, arrested.
That's Fox's Jeff Manasra. After days of anti-Israel protests at Columbia in New York City, the university's president told students they'll be remote today, hoping virtual classes de-escalate the situation. There's also a protest now outside the Supreme Court as the justices consider a case this morning involving homelessness.
People chanting for the homeless. They say that there's not enough housing in the United States, and there's a housing crisis that needs to be fixed. A federal appeals court recently ruled that an anti-camping ordinance aimed at blocking homeless camps in the small town of Grants Pass, Oregon, violated the constitutional ban on cruel and unusual punishment, as the homeless did not have access to shelter elsewhere.
Fox's David Spun. Earlier, the Supreme Court agreed to take up a case this fall involving what are called ghost guns that can be made from kits, making them hard to trace, and issue challenges to Biden administration regulations to force those parts to be licensed and numbered with background checks for buying. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code MONTHFREE by May 31st. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. Are you still on the fence about owning gold? It's time to pull the trigger with the Oxford Gold Group and buy gold and silver. Nobody can predict the future, but we can't put our head in the sand either. The Oxford Gold Group are the pros. They make owning gold and silver simple and easy to understand. Call Oxford Gold Group right now and you may qualify for up to $10,000 in free precious metals. Call 833-995-GOLD. That's 833-995.
Court-appointed special advocates, or CASA, are specially trained volunteers that help secure safe homes for abused and neglected children. Don't let these innocent victims slip through the cracks of our complicated legal system. Get involved today. Call CASA at 268-5111. This nonprofit organization moment brought to you by News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
It's time to win cash. Get your KPEL News apps ready because here's your chance to win up to $30,000. Just enter the following code into your KPEL News app where it says win cash, and make sure you listen for more codes throughout the day because the more codes you enter, the better your chances. Here is your next code.
And here's your 10 a.m. code. It is 163. Your 10 a.m. code is 163.
The views expressed in the following show are those of the hosts or hosts only. They do not represent News Talk 96.5 KPEL or Town Square Media.
Hello, welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. What a great day. Monday, best day to work week. Appreciate you joining us on the Matthew James Tax Wealth Management Hotline. All right. We are proud to be joined by our friends from the Heritage Foundation. We have the Heritage Foundation Senior Legal Fellow and former Senior Counsel of the U.S. Department of Education, Ms. Sarah Parshall Perry. Ms. Sarah, how you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
No. Thank you for spending a few minutes today. Because this Title IX thing, women's sports have come so far. Women deserve everything they've gotten since they started playing sports and all the trouble and pain they had to go through, not just in sports, but in life, but in sports in particular. And all of a sudden now, we got a president and we got a different way of doing things that could absolutely shuttle and just knock this down, the progress they made. What's going on? What is the president doing? What does these rules say about what's going on?
So Title IX encompasses so much more than sports. It is actually just a one-sentence non-discrimination law that says any federally funded education program cannot discriminate on the basis of sex. It's simply one sentence long, very simple, very cut and dry, but it covers every program that receives so much as $1 of federal funding, whether directly or indirectly. Now, a lot of people think that means it's only the big NCAA colleges. No, that is actually every institution, whether it's K through 12, preschool, Head Start, college, graduate program, trade school, vocational school, or otherwise, that receives so much as $1 of federal funding. Now, that could be taking a student, for example, on a reduced lunch program, or taking a student on a Pell Grant, because that's how they're paying for college. So this really is going to cover the majority of institutions in the country, and here's why that's a problem. The Biden administration has just taken that word sex from a 1972 law and expanded it to include sexual orientation, gender identity, and pregnancy or related conditions. And what immediately comes to mind, relative especially to gender identity, is how there are programs distinctly set aside for women, whether that's women's athletics, women's scholarships, women's dorms or bathrooms or locker rooms. Now, every one of those programs that was previously separated for the protection and equality of women is going to be opened up to individuals who could be biologically male but identify as being women.
Yeah, it's incredible. My biology classes and the Word of God and the Constitution, the reason why they describe sex, male and a female, and now we got a new version of it. And so it kind of throws, and they're throwing a wrench in the plan of God himself. Now, I don't want to get you on that side, but I'm just saying, they're throwing a wrench in the plan. So all of a sudden, a man can say he's a woman and he's in. And I will never understand that with anybody that has any kind of sense at all. And that's why we're fighting.
That's exactly it. And it's so expansive to take that very simple law, which the congressional history, the text of the law itself, including the implementing regulations. This is the result of 250 pieces of legislation and extensive floor debate. It went back and forth in 1971 before one of these bills coming out of the 250 that passed between House and Senate was finally approved, and that was Title IX. They had an opportunity to amend Title IX to include gender identity in 1987, and that's because they reauthorized under the Civil Rights Restoration Act, Title IX, yet again. So they cracked it open to review whether or not there were any changes needed, determined that there were not, and reauthorized it under the Civil Rights Restoration Act. So at no point were any floor amendments offered up to expand the definition of sex to include gender identity. And an executive agency like the Department of Education does not have the power to unilaterally make law from underlying statutory law. They are allowed to essentially interpret, they are allowed to apply, but they are not allowed to make new law, and yet that's precisely what the Biden administration has done here.
Well, this is a total shoot down of the Constitution, Ms. Perry. It's got to be a devastating. And by the way, just because I want to know, where's this going to be in court? Because I'm sure there's lawsuits coming on this.
That's 100% right. In fact, I know that Independent Women's Law Center has already indicated they are planning on suing. We know that another organization is planning on suing. There is quite possibly a group of attorneys general who are planning to sue on behalf of their states, including many of those states that have their own women's sports laws, because, of course, now, Moon, this sets up an immediate conflict between federal interpretation and state law, something that the Supreme Court's indicated they don't want really interfered with by the federal government unless an underlying state law is patently contrary to federal law. You want to make sure that states can democratically enact and apply their own laws. We don't want to, as the Supreme Court has said in a recent case, cut off that ability lightly. So there are quite a number of lawsuits already pending. Good. In fact, the swift response on Twitter, on X, and as somebody who spends a lot of time writing and sort of offering my punditry on X, the first response from Alliance Defending Freedom, one of our very close partners in the conservative legal movement, was, Biden, see you in court. So we know that it's coming. It's just a matter of how many challenges and on what broad a basis.
You know, speaking of Heritage Foundation senior legal fellow, Sarah Portia Perry. Ms. Perry, it's sad to see the country, and it's not just this, it's all kind of stuff. It's sad to see the country going in the direction we're going. It's sad to see what women have finally got. I watched the girls' basketball. The gymnastics is getting bigger. The girls' softball is really getting big. It's all growing with women, for women, for young ladies, for women. For American government and its president to come along and trying to destroy what took them forever. You know, one of my disappointments, and I hope you're going to get me straight on this, I don't see enough ladies and women in women's sports and big-name coaches. I mean, we got one in Kim Mulkey right here in Baton Rouge, standing up for women. Yeah. You don't have to say anything about somebody that claims to be a boy or girl, but we need a lot of people to start standing up and say, enough of this is enough. We got to quit the crazy. And that bothers me because they ought to be the ones standing up and say, no, we are not allowing this. They're the ones got us where we are today with young ladies. They're the ones have to keep us. They're not going to keep us if they're not standing up.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I got to tell you, I was really encouraged. Jeff Landry came out immediately wearing a Tigers polo shirt for LSU, but really decrying the fact that there's a lot of wokeness right now in American education. That was specifically with the basketball team not appearing for the national anthem on the court at LSU, where my son is a freshman, so my heart is in Baton Rouge as well. But I have to tell you that it is really incumbent upon the women who are in athletics to stand up. Listen, we've seen some good responses. Martina Navratilova, for example, she has stood up. and decried what we're seeing as the elimination of women's equality. We know Jennifer Say, who herself was a coach, has stood up for it, but we need more women in these sort of semi-professional collegiate positions who are really in the limelight right now, doing great things with women's athletics, to stand up and say this far and no farther. In fact, 94% of individual female executives in the United States played competitive scholastic sports at the high school or collegiate level. So we want women to have protected athletic spaces, and we want them to have protected spaces because of their privacy, because they have an individual right to privacy and to equality, and to invade those private spaces with individuals who self-identify as women really does throw the entire civil rights canon and the Constitution upside down.
Well, this whole thing is upside down. This is so anti-Christ. It's not even. It's sad. It's kind of you know what's amazing. If this was all natural and this is just natural, like they try to convince you. My question to you is: when is a girl going to change into a boy and dominate the boy sports, like a boy can turn into a girl and dominate a girl sports? Because if it's natural and this is not made up out of thin air, I think made up out of hell, then. I'm just asking, when is that going to happen? I'll go, wow, well, maybe there's something to it. But until that happens, I'm going to say that, and it never will, this is made up out of thin air. The problem is we don't have enough pushback. And I know you're naming some people, and there are people, but it seems like the whole women's sports ought to stand up from coast to coast, say, Mr. President, and they ought to vote against him, showing you this is wrong. This has got to be an issue in the election.
Oh, there's absolutely no doubt. In fact, 70% of the American voters of every perspective, independent, Republican, Democrat, 70%, that's huge, want sports separated by biological sex. This is not a winning issue for this administration going into an election year, and yet the administration has doubled down. Now, they have told America that there are two rules on Title IX. They've made one rule, the big rule that was just released at 5 a.m. on Friday, and the second rule specifically related to athletics. Now, the administration has represented that athletics are not included in the current rule that was released, and yet the rule itself makes 31 references to athletics and mentions the refusal to discriminate on the basis of gender identity in all, quote, extracurricular activities. So if that's not including athletics, I don't know what is. Yeah. They are guided by a standard called de minimis harm. You cannot exclude transgender individuals to more than a level of de minimis harm. While in the standard of legal vernacular, we call that barely nothing. That's the 1% rule. If it is more than 1% harm to an individual who identifies, for example, as a woman and wants to run on the women's track team, it's going to be very hard for a college or a high school to be able to mount a challenge under this new rule to say we have an interest in fairness and protecting the physical safety of our female athletes. Under this rule, the Biden administration will say, sorry, that's a Title IX civil rights violation.
That's Ms. Perry. Hey, do you have a few more minutes?
I do.
Okay, I got about a 3 or 4 minute break. Come back and wrap up about 5 or 6 minutes. Sarah Portia Perry with the Heritage Foundation. We'll take a break. Be right back, folks. Don't go nowhere.
Good news, Louisiana. Our new conservative governor and legislature are ready to fix our state and undo generations of broken big government. The bad news, they're handcuffed by an outdated, bloated constitution. Lawmakers control just 7 cents of every tax dollar. That means no accountability and your money wasted. It also means countless elections, asking you to vote on amendments that don't make any sense and just make things worse. If we don't fix our Constitution, Louisiana faces a $500 million fiscal cliff. It'll mean dramatic cuts to top scholarships, devastating cuts to our community colleges, vocational schools, and higher education, and painful cuts to hospitals. It could lead to massive tax increases. Conservative leaders, it's time to answer the call. Be bold, be courageous, and fix our broken Constitution. Visit answerthecall.la and send your legislator a message.
As Louisiana's only fiberglass manufacturer and fabricator, C-Safe Fiberglass Grading and Structural Systems has provided corrosion-resistant products to the Gulf Coast for over 45 years. Our fiberglass grading, cable trays, and structural shapes are ideal to replace corroded, rotting building products and can be custom fabricated by the best fiberglass craftsmen in the world, right here in Lafayette. Contact C-Safe or visit our website at csafe.com. That's SEA like the ocean, SAFE.com.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. It's termite season. Did you know termites are responsible for over $1 billion worth of damage in Louisiana alone? For over 60 years, J&J Exterminating has been shielding homes and businesses. 100% guaranteed against termites, pests, and mosquitoes. Louisiana-owned, customer-focused. J&J Exterminating.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J Exterminating.
Get the shield.
Yeah.
When you think about how Hey, y'all, welcome back. Moon Griffon Show, 844-766-6607. Matthew James Tax Wealth Management Hotline. And of course, we welcome, and it's an honor to have Sarah Portia Perry, Heritage Foundation Senior Legal Fellow. Sarah, I should say Miss Perry. Miss Perry, do you think it's a way to rally? I think you got to rally all the way down into the high schools and the college levels, and even professional athletes to make them take a stand on this. I was so disappointed in the South Carolina coach coming out after she won a national championship. Oh, yeah, I don't have a problem with men being women if they identify and play. I'm thinking, if you want to coach men, go coach a men's team. But I was really disappointed with her comment. I thought, oh, my God, all these women and these ladies have paid the price to get where they are. For Joe Biden and the nuts in our country to tell you there's another gender outside of male and the female.
Yeah, and this is a top-down problem, as you know, from the first day after his swearing in, his first act as president. I want you to think about this, how significant a move this was from this administration. His first act as president was an executive order telling all of the federal agencies, HUD, DOJ, HHS, Department of Education, you name it, to expand the definition of sex to include gender identity. Now, that touches more than 100 federal laws and regulations. That is a significant upending of everything we know about sex discrimination and the prohibition against sex discrimination from starting with 1964 through Title VII to protect equal employment, to Title IX to protect equal education opportunities. This is really a top-down approach, and we are having to fight it from the bottom up. So we're now seeing, for example, after the Fourth Circuit ruling recently in a case called PBJ versus West Virginia, where a male-bodied student who had been on hormones wanted to compete on a women's track team and was prevented from doing so by the school administration. Well, the Fourth Circuit said, sorry, that's unconstitutional and a violation of Title IX. They are having to now fight this at the ground level, and we saw in response to the decision, and I applaud these young women, 5 track and field young women in middle school in West Virginia walk off the field in protest of the opinion. This is what we're going to have to do. Here's the problem. We know these young women love their athletics. We know it's great for discipline and perseverance. It brings strength of character, camaraderie. But these women, these young girls, are having to make untenable choices. Do I want to compete against a male who is acting like a female, who's taking hormones, who thinks he's a female, possibly get hurt, lose my roster slot, lose a scholarship, or do I want to just simply walk off the field and protest? And in increasing numbers, that's what we're seeing.
Well, not only that, I would somebody made a good point. They think officials ought to say, no, if this is all girls, I'm refereeing. If it's not, I'm leaving. Just leave. I mean, you gotta do drastic stuff because the president of the United States, Biden, did drastic stuff. You know, and it's incredible. I just go back again. I just think it's going to take, to me, a lot more people to get involved to shut this down. Maybe an election will do it. If this is not an election deal for the Republicans, I don't know what is. This ought to be gigantic for them. And if it's not, then that tells me nobody cares about the subject until somebody gets hurt. Can you imagine a man playing saying I'm a woman, they let him play softball, 6'2", 6'3", step up to bat, they're 46 feet away, and they hit a softball down the throat and the head of a young lady? We've already seen people hurt like that.
Yep. That's exactly it. That is exactly it. And, I mean, we're hearing stories, right? So we've seen it out of Maine. We've seen it out of Pennsylvania. We've seen young girls playing field hockey get their teeth knocked out. We've seen a young girl playing basketball with a trans student who had the ball ripped from her, and she fell down on her back and hit her head on the court. This is happening in increasing measure. It's not even just about equality anymore. It's literally about physical safety. The volleyball girl who was a high school player who took a ball spiked to the face from a trans athlete, a male who stood at 6'2". These are the kind of situations that we're up against. So it's requiring a lot of courage from these young women who are really having to make these untenable choices. But, you know, the Title IX rule goes beyond just sports itself. It also extends to campus investigations for individuals accused of sexual harassment and sexual misconduct and sexual assault, for example. They don't have anymore, like they did under the Trump administration when I was serving to enforce Title IX. They don't have the protections of due process, the right to call counsel, the right to examine evidence or cross-examine witnesses. This is an individual, unelected bureaucrat on a college campus who gets to act as judge, jury, and executioner and determine whether or not that individual's future is going to be tarred irreparably. Yes, it really is unconscionable.
Sarah Paul Shapiro, thank you so much. God bless. Thank you for your work.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, ma'am. All right, take a break. Be right back. Folks, it's Moon Griffon. No better way to imagine your custom Schumacher home than by touring one. Visit the Olivia French Country Model Home and see why this plan is built specifically with families like yours in mind. By stepping in a Schumacher Model Home, you'll be able to walk through at your own pace and see the latest architectural trends. Plus, you can visualize how one of the most popular house plans comes to life firsthand. My friends at Schumacher just unveiled the newest plan that makes for a great family home featuring an innovative layout, the Addison Plan. 6 bedrooms, 6.5 bathrooms, and focus on the modern family dynamics. This plan features a versatile, multi-generational suite for the first floor. Folks, head to SchumacherHomes.com, SchumacherHomes.com. Combine function and luxury. We can take you from first step to the last step, and we'll want you in this new home. You're going to love it. SchumacherHomes.com, SchumacherHomes.com for your next home, your dream home. It's got to be Schumacher Home. Oh, man, I love me some Superior Grill. Superior Grill, the best Mexican food in the state of Louisiana, bar none, baby. They are the best, and you're going to love them, too. They got great drinks and food, and the atmosphere is second to none. They know what they're doing. They know how to serve. Hey, folks, you do know they cater. They do cater. Superior Grill, located in New Orleans, Shreveport, and Baton Rouge, Lafayette right around the corner. You're going to love Superior Grill. You're going to love the atmosphere. You're going to love the taste. They can handle anything you got. Folks, they got happy hours. They really serve the people. And you're going to love Superior Grill. I love it. You're going to love it. I cannot wait to go to Superior Grill. I've been going to Superior Grill now for 29 years. Let me tell you, I know all about Superior Grill. When I want good Mexican food, I'm going to Superior Grill. I want to see you there. We're going to have a blast.
Hey, folks.
This hour brought to you by Matthew James Tax and Wealth Management. Online at MatthewJames.com.
Hi, y'all, folks. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Matthew James, Tax Wealth Management Hotline. Don't forget, on Thursday, we'll broadcast not in the Capitol, but guaranteed broadcasting in Baton Rouge. Looking forward to it. I always do. The governor says he's coming back by, so we'll see. All right. Bernie Pincinet's supposed to be one of my guests, too. Let's jump gears. We ain't had him on here in a few weeks. Scott McKay. Our good friends at the Hayride. Scott, good morning.
Good morning. What's going on, man?
Oh, man, I had the governor on this morning. It kind of went along with, I got a couple articles that you wrote that I want to touch upon with you. The first one, it's important for the left to understand they don't run in Louisiana anymore. And you talk a little bit about the bill. I had Heather Cloud and Jeff Landry talking about what's really going on and these people that are trying to seek information. I just wanted to let people know, look, you still can go get information. You do public requests all the time, and you can talk about the process a little bit, but you still can find out how people spend money, contracts, things of that nature. But you can't find out every little dirty detail behind the scenes, and the left is nutting up on it.
Well, okay, so I'll just tell you my experience from doing the hayride. We spent a lot of time doing public records requests on John Bel Edwards' administration for 8 years. A lot of time, his first term, not quite so much his second term. And the reason was practically everything that we filed got denied. Mm-hmm. They just said, no, we're not giving you that. Largely because, not that they had any real justification. They just knew that we didn't have the resources to go take them to court on every one of these public records requests. So if they didn't want to fulfill it, they just didn't. Okay? The difference is that you have a couple of publications, which is the Advocate and the Louisiana Illuminator, mm-hmm. that are funded by out-of-state left-wing nonprofits, the George Soros Democracy Alliance Network type people. And they have an endless supply of money that they can use for things like taking the governor to court on public records requests. Mm-hmm. And they've already established their willingness to do this stuff when he was attorney general, and they would file endless public records requests. And the thing about these things is, for a government agency to comply with public records requests actually does take, man hours to go and research this stuff and then produce it, which, okay, fine. I get it. This is a function of government to provide transparency. But what's actually happening here is an abuse of that process that is funded by left-wing wackos from out of state, like actual James Bond villains, who are looking at Jeff Landry becoming governor of Louisiana and doing actual conservative things as governor, in the same way that the deep state looked at Donald Trump getting elected president and decided to gum up his administration with the Russia hoax. Yeah. Okay? It's not, it's a different venue, but it's exactly the same kind of thing, which is, like Peter Strzok said, it's our insurance policy. Okay? So he gets Heather Cloud to bring this bill that, they're going to try to, they're going to try to change the law to eliminate the profligacy of the abuse of this process that the Advocate and the Illuminator are going to try to do because they're being funded to do it. Okay, and there's no consequence or accountability for these George Soros groups that are trying to pull this stuff off. Right, like they just get to play offense, and there's never any blowback on any of it. So, why not? All it costs them is money, and they have endless supplies of that. Meanwhile, this is, if it's not checked, this is going to make it very, very difficult for the Landry administration to change government in Louisiana the way it needs to be changed. Okay, because if you're spending all your man hours doing stupid public records request compliance, you're not going to be able to reform these agencies the way you want to do it. It's just everything gets kind of locked down the way it is. And, that's how they wait out a conservative governor for 4 or 8 years. And it's probably more like 4 because every time one of these public records requests pays off in some email from somebody that, is thinking about things inside the tent and not what's going to come out in a public records request, they get a big splash headline and make Landry look bad. Yeah. And, which this was never done to John Bel Edwards because the Advocate had zero interest in anything that was happening there. They didn't even have any interest in the Ronald Green case. Nope. That was the AP and a couple of TV stations. The Advocate never did any original reporting on that. Right? And now they want to go dig into everything that happens in Landry's administration, which, okay, but don't abuse the process, which is basically what this bill is about.
Yeah, they're abusing the hell out of it. There was something I came across years ago when Edwards came in. They automatically declared a $2 billion deficit. And I knew there was a lie. It was a lie from hell. We knew there was $1 billion, maybe $1.2 billion. And I thought you did a great job of explaining that the other day. And I've been talking about this for 9 years now. I said, where did the Advocate get this from? Well, they got it from Jay Darden and John Bel Edwards. And you were correct. They took what they needed, and then they added about another $1 billion or $800 million. And so we got $2 billion budget deficit. And the Advocate, who's asking for all this information, never, ever asked, where did you get that from? They just printed it. Right. They just freaking printed it, man. And it was a lie. They know it was a lie, and they never even cared that it was a lie. That's the kind of stuff they did. They protected him, and of course they want to pound Landry.
Let me interject something. That was 8 years ago when the Advocate still pretended that their business model had to do with actual circulation and readership among people in Louisiana. They're not even pretending that anymore. That is a publication that is funded by out-of-state nonprofits. You can't hardly find anybody who will admit to having a subscription to the Advocate anymore. Yep. All right, their readership is infinitesimal compared to what you think it would be for a newspaper of record across a state like Louisiana. Nobody reads it. Yeah. Their ad revenues have cratered. Their subscription revenues have cratered. They are made whole by subsidies from out-of-state, hard-left nonprofits like the Ford Foundation and the Kellogg Foundation and some of these others, okay? That is their market. The people of Louisiana are not the Advocate's market anymore, haven't been for several years now. I mean, which is why, for example, the sports coverage in the Advocate is such garbage. They don't care about the audience of the paper anymore. They've already given that away. So this is all about making the bigwigs at these hard left foundations happy, and those guys are calling the tune. All right, and the Louisiana Illuminator was founded in that respect. So, these are the people that are leading the left in Louisiana, which can't get elected in this state.
No doubt about it. And they protected the one they got elected who ended up being as woke as any of the other ones. It's in Bel Edwards. That's exactly. Okay, when we get back, another story you wrote. It's amazing how unhinged and stupid Louisiana's left is becoming, which, by the way, goes right off of what you were just talking about. But I want to go into this one, too, because this is really interesting as well. Scott McKay, the Hayride, he's my special guest. We'll take a break. Be right back with another big segment with Scott McKay.
Good news, Louisiana. Our new conservative governor and legislature are ready to fix our state and undo generations of broken big government. The bad news, they're handcuffed by an outdated, bloated constitution. Lawmakers control just 7 cents of every tax dollar. That means no accountability and your money wasted. It also means countless elections, asking you to vote on amendments that don't make any sense and just make things worse. If we don't fix our Constitution, Louisiana faces a $500 million fiscal cliff. It'll mean dramatic cuts to top scholarships, devastating cuts to our community colleges, vocational schools, and higher education, and painful cuts to hospitals. It could lead to massive tax increases. Conservative leaders, it's time to answer the call. Be bold. Be courageous and fix our broken Constitution. Visit answerthecall.la and send your legislator a message.
Folks, I want to tell you about one of my new advertisers, Adapt Concepts AC Service Repairs. Serving all of Acadiana, surrounding areas, and the Gulf of Mexico for over 6 years. Full-service AC and heating company, repairs, installation, and preventive maintenance, which is very, very important. Installation service, professional quality services, focus on creating value for you. Terms of certified technician, 24/7 customer service, and free consultation. I'm talking Adapt Concepts, AC Service Repairs. You want the professionals, you want the best, this is them. Purchase a qualified high-efficient system for maintenance, plus get a free 12-year parts and labor warranty. Wow, don't you want to know about that? Call them at 337-408-8202. That's 337-408-8202. Or go to the website, adapt-ac.com. That's adapt-ac.com.
Looking for a place?
Hi, hello. Welcome back. Microphone Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607 is the number. Scott McKay from the Hayride, my special guest. Scott, let me throw this at you. Hold up, Scott. My headphone just blew up, which is not unusual. You had another story. It's amazing how unhinged and stupid Louisiana's left is becoming. And I like the headlines of the other one because and I think it goes all together. I don't think the left really understands they're not in charge unless Republicans pull victory, death out of the victory. You know, that's the only way Democrats can smile, and unfortunately, some Republicans would do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've got a surrender caucus forming in the Senate, which is hard to understand. And maybe you just got some people in the Senate that need to, have an attitude adjustment inflicted on them. But, otherwise, I mean, the left can only have victories in this state when the right allows them to have them, because this is a red state that, I think has done as good a job as it can do electorally to set itself up as a red state. I mean, this is about as many conservatives as you can elect, okay, in the statewide positions and in the legislature and so on. And the real question is how many of these people are going to betray the folks that elected them. There's no longer a question of, like, for example, in Congress, where you look at the numbers and you just don't have them, and it's, and so you're trying to do the best you can do. The best you can do in state politics in Louisiana is everything, because there's nothing standing in the way.
Yeah.
And the Democrats and the left in Louisiana are now at the point where all they can do is complain and whine about what the right is doing to wield power that the people have elected them to wield. Mm-hmm. And the strategy is to make these people wet their pants and not actually wield that power. Yeah. And so what we're doing at the Hayride is, trying to reinforce to conservative lawmakers and others, hey, govern. Don't listen to what these people are saying. Nobody voted for them. Nobody cares what they think anymore. So stop acting like these guys have any relevance.
That's what I said. They don't need them at all. They should have just ignored them for putting people on certain committees and all. They should have ignored them. But if you don't, if you got idiot Republicans, and you got a few of them too, they're not going to do what they need to do to change the state. That's what bothers me.
Well, and a good example that we had at the site today, and you mentioned the article. So Roger Wilder, who's a member of the Freedom Caucus, is a freshman state rep from Livingston Parish. owns a bunch of Smoothie Kings here in the state and in Mississippi and Tennessee, and I think maybe a couple in Texas or something. Anyway, Wilder brings a bill based on his own experience that if you've got 18-year-olds working for you at a Smoothie King, for example, and, they're working a shift, and the shifts are, 5-6 hours or more or whatever, you don't have to push them off the clock for a lunch break. Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, it doesn't mean they don't eat lunch. It's just, look, it's going to be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you're going to eat something. You're on the clock. Just go in the break room, eat your stuff, and then come back, right?
We did that. A lot of us did that a lot of times when you were working those jobs.
It's easier to do it that way, okay? You don't have to punch a clock and all this kind of stuff. But the big thing is that if you're only going to take 10 or 15 minutes to eat, why would you want to be off the clock for 30 minutes to take a lunch? No, I want to go back to work and get paid, right? So, but if you're 16 or 17 years old and you get hired at Smoothie King, legally they have to take you off the clock for 30 minutes so that you can have lunch. Okay? Like, legally, they have to do this. Well, what do? Well, come back when you're 18 and we'll hire you because I'm not going to go through this with 17-year-olds.
Well, and let me ask you a question. In your scenario, so if somebody takes 15 minutes and goes down, eats a sandwich, drinks them a cold drink of water, and then go right back to work, aren't they getting paid for that whole 30 minutes that they sat down for 15, 20 minutes to eat?
No, they got to come off the clock for lunch.
Okay.
I mean, you take this requirement away, and there's that. I mean, the thing of it is that you can pay them for their lunch if you want, but you still have to do the stupid paperwork.
Yeah.
They took their state mandated lunch, right?
I see what you're saying.
I mean, the point of look, we'll just you don't come off the clock is we don't have to do the paperwork, we don't have to do the compliance, right? We're not proving that we're following some rule that doesn't need to exist.
I get it.
And in Texas and in Mississippi, they don't have that rule. Okay,
only Louisiana.
So he goes and he brings this bill. Right? And it's like, let's get rid of the stupid requirements that we put on employers here that our neighbors don't do. Well, he brings this bill, and of course it's the Illuminator that has to go do a write-up. He's weakening the child labor laws in Louisiana.
I read that.
And now you've got idiots on Twitter who want to boycott Smoothie King.
My God.
You people can't get any dumber, or at least that's what I think, than you are, and they proceed to get dumber. I mean, once again, please stop listening to anything these morons say. They have absolutely no concept of reality, and what concept of reality they have patently does not work, which is why all of the places they run are dysfunctional and failing.
Unbelievable for something that simple.
Yeah. I mean, this is not hard stuff. And it's, you're abusing the kids. And it's like, okay, do you have any idea how hard it is to find kids who will properly staff a Smoothie King? It's damn near impossible. They'll work 5 days and quit, and then you're all back to the start trying to hire and train somebody else. I mean, they have this concept of all employment is like a salt mine from 1855, right? Like that where you get all your employees are like slaves, or they're like Irish off the boat that are desperate for a job and will put up with any kind of exploitation or abuse that some fat cat employer would put on them. And that's 1,000% not what the labor market is. Anybody who operates a QSR or any one of these stores or something where you employ a lot of low wage people, it's a revolving door. You can't get people to work. Okay, it's like impossible. You're hiring kids, and they don't show up on time. If you tell them something, they quit in a huff. I mean, like, it's a mess. It's the number. I talk to anybody who does that. The number one thing they'll tell you is, "Oh my God, it's such a nightmare trying to hire." Okay. Yeah. like the idea that they're out to get these 17-year-old kids and starve them to death while they're on the job is so stupid and hilariously ridiculous that like you think you're on another planet listening to these clowns, and yet they believe it. Why? Because they don't know how anything works. And a lot of them, they don't even have kids. Right? So they can't even tell you their kids' experience. Not that they would let their kids work when they were in high school.
Yeah. Well, it just never changes with these woke people. It just never does. They think and this is the thing about it. Every time we say, well, Mississippi does it and Texas does it, or don't do it, either one, I always wonder why Louisiana don't run to that, because you know what else we don't do? We don't have our migration. They don't have our migration. We do. They got jobs. Yeah. We don't. They got an economy not based on the federal government and Medicaid, and they do. You see, we can go on and on with that, but they only want to talk about a few things like that, and it's kind of sad because we watch these states run by us so much.
Well, these are the same people that are, want to insist on Louisiana or any state having a $15 minimum wage, right?
Yep.
And that would make this whole question of the 17-year-old kid getting a 30-minute lunch mandated by all of that goes away because that 17-year-old kid ain't getting that job. Nope. And you want to go to Smoothie King, and there's one guy working at Smoothie King, and his job is to watch the machines. And he makes $20 an hour, but your smoothie is made by a robot because they're no longer going to hire anybody. I mean, like, that's literally the effect that you get when they've done these things. And, the idiots on the left think that they've helped people.
I know. They don't even have a clue.
Passed a $15 minimum wage, and then look at all the people it helped. And it's like, you hurt way more people than you helped.
Yeah, don't have a clue.
You idiot.
Hey, got to go, Scott. Always a pleasure. We'll do it again soon. Take care, bud. All right, got to take a break. More to come. Moon Griffon Show for the rest of you leaving. God bless.
For the absolute best in local Cajun food, check out Prejean's in their 2 locations in Carencro and Broussard today.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL, Brobridge, Lafayette, a Town Square media station broadcasting from the Matthew James Financial Studio.
The defense says there's plenty of reasonable doubt. Lisa Brady, Fox News. It's their turn to make an opening statement at the criminal trial former President Trump calls election interference.
This is done for purposes of hurting the opponent of the worst president in the history of our country.
He spoke before heading into court in New York City, where prosecutors say the former president orchestrated a criminal scheme to corrupt the 2016 presidential election by covering up hush money payments to bury scandalous stories. Defense attorney Todd Blanche just telling the jury the former president is innocent and did not commit any crimes.
Earlier today, the judge in the case ruled that if the former president takes the stand in his own defense, prosecutors can ask about his civil fraud trial brought by New York's Attorney General, as well as gag order violations, and that he defamed writer E. Jean Carroll.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. New York City police just holding a briefing after days of anti-Israel protests at Columbia University, emphasizing it's a private school.
We cannot just go on the Columbia campus as we see fit. It is up to the university to decide whether or not they want us on campus.
The Deputy NYPD Commissioner Michael Gerber also says they would respond immediately if someone was in imminent danger. Columbia is holding virtual classes today. For the first time, the federal government moves to require minimum staffing levels at nursing homes.
The law currently requires nursing homes to have, quote, sufficient staffing, leaving much of the rules up to the states. New federal rules include a minimum number of hours for staff members to spend with those living in nursing homes and for a registered nurse to be available at all times. The move is likely to get pushback from an industry already struggling with staffing shortages. Last year, the president of the American Healthcare Association called the changes, quote, unfathomable.
Fox's Ryan Schmelz in Washington. America is listening to Fox News.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code MONTHFREE by May 31st. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. Are you still on the fence about owning gold? It's time to pull the trigger with the Oxford Gold Group and buy gold and silver. Nobody can predict the future, but we can't put our head in the sand either. The Oxford Gold Group are the pros. They make owning gold and silver simple and easy to understand. Call Oxford Gold Group right now and you may qualify for up to $10,000 in free precious metals. Call 833-995-GOLD. That's 833-995-GOLD.
The U.S. Supreme Court will consider federal regulation of so-called ghost guns.
A 2022 Biden administration rule requires unfinished firearm parts like a frame or a receiver to be licensed and include serial numbers. Manufacturers must also carry out background checks for sales. But lower courts struck down that regulation, ruling the regulation went beyond the authority of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. The Supreme Court has agreed to take up an appeal from the Justice Department. Justices narrowly allowed the rule to stay in place during the legal fight on a 5-4 vote.
Fox's Jared Halpern in Washington. Arguments are expected this fall. Today, the High Court is hearing a fight over a public camping ban in Grants Pass, Oregon, where opponents say the ban punishes homeless people when no shelters are available. Open for business. That's what the Miami Seaquarium website says today, despite a lease termination deadline that passed yesterday.
The company running the Miami Seaquarium faces eviction. It was supposed to leave the facility located on Miami-Dade County-owned property by Sunday's deadline. But park managers opened the gates and let customers with tickets or passes inside until closing time. Many are horrified by USDA reports that some animals had lung and pulmonary diseases, didn't have the required nutritious diet, and even had untreated serious injuries from attacks by aggressive animals. Activists are calling for different options like turning the Seaquarium into a sanctuary or relocating the animals under proper care. CJ Papa, Fox News.
Stocks turning higher for now after a 3-week losing streak on Wall Street, the longest streak since September. Right now, the Dow's up 134 points. The S&P and the NASDAQ also in the green. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.